understand.
The council meeting will come to order. If you'll rise and give your attention to Councilman Manspeaker for the invocation, remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I would just ask that we observe a moment of silence. Thank you.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are no proclamations this evening, but we do have several presentations from Mr. City Manager. You introduce those for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to ask Monique Glaudet to approach the dais and to provide information and update on the City of Topeka E311 program.
Thank you, Susan. Happy New Year, Mayor, Council, City Manager. I stand before you this evening to provide you with a one-year update on Topeka E311. As of December 31st, close of business, there are 521 iOS downloads, 383 Android downloads, 782 users created profiles. Constituents were able to find answers to 4,698 questions. There were 8,837 unique one-time visitors, 30,398 pages reviewed. The chart in your presentation this evening shows you the following. There were 510, which equals 34% of tickets were closed within 48 hours. 10% were closed within 3 days. An additional 6% were closed within 4 days. 17% were closed within 1 week. 7% were closed within 10 days. An additional 11% were closed within 20 days. And 15% were closed in 20 days or more. We're urging constituents to continue to try today E311 by logging on to www.topeka.org/311 or to download for free the app at their app store. Thank you, and I stand for questions.
Thank you. Could you explain, some people may not understand, you say tickets took 10 days. What is a ticket?
Sure. The E311 ticket is what you create when you have a question or you're asking for a service to be provided. It's referred to as a ticket.
So that's really like you say, it took 48 hours from when it's recorded to when you have a response back to the constituent
Actually,
or whoever calls in.
The time period I provided for you is how long it takes for it to be created and then for it to be closed and totally completed.
Okay. Questions? Councilwoman Ortiz?
Happy New Year, Monique.
Happy New Year to you as well.
What is a unique visitor?
They're one-time visitors. That's the number of people that at least one time were able to calculate that they went on to utilize E311 in some form or fashion.
So they would get on to visit a complaint just to see what our E311 does, or how, do you know?
There are different things they could do. They could either go on and they could have been calculated as one of the 4,698 people that found their own answer and didn't need to create one, or they may have actually had a ticket that they created for an issue to be resolved.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Other questions, comments? Mrs. Hiller?
The idea at first, if I recall correctly, was that this system would be what we were using exclusively, maybe, that the staff would use when they took complaints and that we would direct the public to use.
Ideally, yes, you're correct.
Ideally. Mm-hmm. How are we doing then in terms of our making progress toward that goal? What percentage of the customer service issues and quote tickets that we write is this report today?
And I apologize, I don't have that number for you. We could
I
obtain
figured
that
it might
number
not
for
be
you.
exact anyway, so
Yes.
could you give me an idea of how we're doing?
And I would hate to guess, because I would hate to give you a figure that's not correct and possibly too lowball. What I can say to you, Councilmember Hiller, is that the customer service component of being able to provide information in a timely manner has definitely increased in the last year since it's been implemented. We are receiving less time to, pardon me, let me say, we are able to provide the constituents with exact information and allow them to follow along as a ticket or an issue is being addressed, way faster than we were before, when it would take 15 to 20 emails to go back and forth. This is one location they can go to, find the information out, and continually be updated as it progresses until the ticket's closed. But I'd hate to guess to give you a number. I could find that number out for you and provide that to you.
Well, I was just curious because I thought that that was our goal, and I know that still people are calling directly to staff in different departments or to customer service staff, and I know that some of our staff are loading those things in and are using it for feedback, which is great, and the people that use it love it.
Absolutely.
So, not at all criticism, I just know that we still had a lot,
Sure.
a
And
lot of moving parts.
And thank you for posing that question. We're continuing to market it as well. I'm calling into the call center. The call center staff is providing information, encouraging people, instead of calling, to utilize E311. Various departments are also telling people they can find the answer out in E311 as well. So we're continuing to market it, and hopefully we'll be able to get everyone to utilize the tool. That's the goal.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Are there other questions, comments? Councilman Brown?
Hi, Monique.
Hi.
What feedback mechanism is in place for the users so that they have suggestions, comments on how it's functioning, what problems they're having? Is that built into the system? I can't quite recall.
I don't know that there's a particular location or an email that they're asked to address. I know that my name is actually attached to it as well. However, there's additional questions or concerns they have within that ticket that they're communicating back and forth. We're able to see that as well and to view it if there's any concerns and complaints.
Okay. And not a criticism, but
Sure.
782 profiles seems like still a relatively low number a year in. You mentioned your efforts to promote it. Can you kind of go through those, and if there's anything additional you're planning on doing or any ideas you're considering?
Sure, and I apologize, I can't speak on behalf of the Director of Communications. I know that Ms. Gilbert and I have talked a little bit more in depth on what we can do. We wanted to wait until December the 31st to see where we are. Now that we have these numbers, I can tell you what we did in the past. In the past, we did news releases. There's a video on YouTube that's been viewed several. I believe we're at 1,000 now. We're now going to continue to stress to departments if we could possibly put the logo on some of their materials that are going out. Possibly start another campaign. I just can't speak exactly to you at this moment. We'd be glad to provide that information to you at a future date.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation.
You're most
Very
welcome.
helpful to have that.
You're most welcome.
And Mr. Colson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, I'd like to ask Doug Gerber to talk about a very positive event that has occurred, a recognition that the city achieved a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. If you remember where we were a couple of years ago and the very substantial efforts that have been put forth, both in putting a team in place, but also the quality of the team and the work that they're doing. So at this point, I'd like to ask Mr. Gerber to talk about this item.
Mr. Gerber?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Colson, thank you. Indeed, it's a privilege tonight to deliver some exciting and excellent news. We don't always get to do that, but it's nice to be able to on occasion. We have a group of individuals who are responsible for what Mr. Colson represented, but before I call them up, I'd like to give you just a little bit of background as to what we're talking about. The city of Topeka did receive the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for our CAFR, our Consolidated Annual Financial Report. As has been noted, this is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and we believe that attaining it again represents a significant achievement for not only our department, but for the city as a whole. So we're very proud of that. We set this as a goal. The financial and administrative services, as directed by the city manager, have this as a goal to achieve this. It's considered a benchmark among entities across the country. And so that's always a good thing if you can meet those recognized benchmarks. And by doing this, we've joined only 25 other organizations across the state of Kansas. 24 cities in one county. And so it's an elite group, and we're proud of that. The way you receive it is essentially you have to prepare a document that meets all the standards set out by GFOA. Now, this document is reviewed by a panel of government, finance, budgeting experts from across the country. I happen to know I served on the review board years and years ago, mostly because they needed someone who could speak French and review the city of Montreal's budget, but that's kind of another story. But it's an arduous process, and the people who review those things take it very seriously. You only get 3 or 4 documents a year to look at because it's time consuming, and so it's not just sort of a checklist. It's something that is really taken seriously and reviewed well by the folks who do the reviewing. I think there's some unique benefits to receiving this award. For one thing, although this is a little bit overused, but it provides some transparency in our financial reporting. It takes an audit and makes it more simplified for folks to understand, and that's a good thing. It helps credit rating agencies review our financials, and they, to an agency, review it as a positive step when a city prepares a CAFR. And finally, it helps you keep up with trends in accounting and financial reporting. If you're doing something the same year after year and you submit it and it gets reviewed in a negative fashion, then you know that maybe you're not keeping up with the trends like you need to. And so again, I think that's a good thing. And finally, it's just an amazing positive external recognition in our quest, all of our quests, to make Topeka a model capital city. And so with that in mind, I'd like to call up Nikki Lee, Brandon Kaufman, Tina Lloyd, Rini Munoz, and Kristen Reddy. We're just going to kind of have them stand up here. Certainly no award of this size or project of this size is a solitary undertaking, and in this case, that's absolutely true. These are part of the staff that made significant contributions to the CAFR, and I think we should thank them for their input and their efforts.
Well, thank you, and that certainly is significant. This is a recognition of a job well done where we're providing excellent service for the city of Topeka. And there's nothing perhaps more important than the financial status of a city, how it's handled, and to all of those individuals that just stood here and the other people in the department, we certainly offer our congratulations and thank you for a significant job well done. Very meaningful to receive this award. And if that completes the presentations, we will proceed with the roll call.
Mayor Wolgast,
Here.
Council Members Hiller,
Here.
Brown, Ortiz,
Here.
Everhart, De La Isla,
Here.
Manspeaker,
Here.
Schwartz,
Here.
Schmidt,
Here.
and Harmon.
And Deputy Mayor Everhart is not here this evening due to an illness in her family. And council members, I believe there are no additions or deletions to the agenda, and there is no executive session tonight. So we will proceed with the consent calendar.
A, are minutes of the regular meeting of December 16, 2014, and there is one dance hall license application for Midwest Elks Lodge number 1441 located at 1316 Southeast Madison Street, and staff is requesting approval.
Okay, Ms. Delisla? Ms. Delisla moves to approve. Councilman Brown seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yes. Opposed vote no.
We have 8 yes.
8 having voted yes, the consent agenda is approved as read. Go to the action items, and the first is a resolution on council meetings.
A is a resolution introduced by Deputy Mayor Denise Everhart canceling council meetings for calendar year 2015.
And council members, you know, as you note there, this is canceling the 2 the council meetings on the dates of the March and April elections. Are there questions or comments? Your pleasure. Mr. Schmidt? Mr. Schmidt moves to approve. Hiller seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no.
We have 8 yes.
8 having voted yes, the resolution is approved. I believe there are no retail cereal malt beverage or scrap metal dealer licenses. So that completes the action items for this evening. We will proceed with the announcements, and first is the preliminary or the overview of the next week's agenda.
For the January 13th agenda, we have the minutes of the regular meeting for this week, and then action items will have a real estate purchase agreement for a property located at 630 Northwest Topeka Boulevard, and that is the Topeka Rescue Mission.
Thank you. And then for our announcements, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 items I'd like to touch on very briefly. First off, I want to talk about the fire that occurred at 720 Kansas Avenue. While that's a very tragic incident and has very specific impacts on people that we in this community care about greatly, and had the very real risk of doing substantial and significant damage in the downtown area, I think the response of the fire department and several other people really held it to a minimum. And I just wanted to recognize the work of the fire department and the police department, traffic, development services, emergency management, public works. I saw Doug Whitaker out there quite early in the morning, and many of his people. And Mayor, I also want to recognize that. I think I've heard from so many people how impressed they were that you were down there and visiting. I didn't see who else was down there, but I think the opportunity that you took to visit with people during a time of need was very impactful and very much appreciated. The facility at 720 Kansas Avenue, the owner of that facility is working with his insurance company to make a determination as to what they are going to do with the facility. Going forward, there was a lot of damage in the rear of the facility, though the facade is still standing. So we're trying to be available and to assist as possible. Also want to recognize the very good work of Vince and Edie at DTI. They're working with the existing businesses to help them find a location as quickly as possible. So it was a bad thing. It could have been a much worse thing, and I just think the way that people pulled together. And I want to recognize the fact that the Capital Journal recognized the work of the fire department there too. So that was very positive. So that was the first. The second thing I want to talk about, and this is a little bit more fun, is that we started on Friday, and I want to recognize Samantha Griffin, who is the wellness coordinator for the city and works down in the basement, has really jumped in with both feet, couple of hands and other things. I don't think that she's here, but she works in the human resources area, and she started a 30-day challenge on Friday, and there's 35 people that have participated, and 4 more people have indicated that they're going to come in tomorrow and start this thing. And it's not easy. It's talking about push-ups and crunches and squats and planks, and people are really having fun with it, and she is just fantastic, encouraging people. There's a real wide group of people that are participating in it, and they let me go in the corner and cry while I'm doing my part. But this is the first of a regular quarterly challenge that's going to exist, and we're going to really focus, and I want to recognize Councilmember Schwartz, who's been part of the Wellness Committee, and we're really trying to create a healthier community and a healthier employment base for the city too. So, and I've taken that challenge, and my goal is to get back in shape. The last thing I want to talk about is Heartland Park. We had talked previously about having a discussion-only meeting today to bring people up to speed on the respondents to the RFP. And just by way of note, we are continuing to have conversations with 2 of the groups. I don't want to get into a lot of detail since we're still in negotiations, but one of them has expressed some concerns over the status of the legal challenges and the procedural issues that are going on. And while they continue to remain interested, they're kind of holding back in going forward with anything. There's another group who also has those concerns, but believe it's in their best interest to continue to push on, and we anticipate that we'll get a letter of intent from them as to what they would like the deal to work out. I know there are a lot of questions about the NHRA. NHRA has been very actively involved in this, understands some of the issues, has been working to address many of those issues. But there are some legal challenges. We're having oral arguments with the Court of Appeals tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and we anticipate that a decision will come there. There's also the issues with the legislative post-audit. We are actually having the entrance meeting with the post-audit committee Friday morning, and we are continuing to endeavor because we believe that the deal as structured, while it's not perfect, it was beneficial to the city, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and we address those issues as we go forward, just like any other organization would. But we're continuing to push, but we're also realistic, and we're trying to be professional and supportive of everybody involved in the process, and we look forward to resolving everything one way or the other.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say, in addition to what the city manager said pertaining to the fire, and it's so, when the disaster happens, it is a disaster, but it's also, as he stated, fine to hear only compliments about all the various elements of the city staff and for their response, and particularly the firefighters. So again, we thank them. They're doing their job, but it is appreciated when it's done in such a fine manner. Councilman Manspeaker. Councilwoman Schwartz.
Just real brief. The Congress went into session today for the first time, and the legislature in Kansas starts on the 12th next week. So we welcome a lot of legislators to Topeka, capital city. It's a capital place. So, and I hope they find it as warm as we all know it is. So thank you.
Councilman Schmidt, Councilman Harmon, Councilwoman Hiller.
Just had a quick Happy New Year to everyone on the council and staff. I too wanted to give thanks and kudos to police and fire and public works, not only for the big fire downtown, but for all the other things that happened over the holidays. We had a snowstorm, we had a variety of things that took people away from their homes, all of which were handled well, and tragedy was minimized and in some cases averted. And I just really appreciate that, and I know that the businesses at 720 really do appreciate the support of the other merchants who've just really stepped up well, and the city, all those different departments. So just thanks on the Happy New Year. Also, let me just pass the baton back to the city manager, who forgot a recognition for someone who's sitting in the back.
I apologize for that. I did want to recognize Don Stone, who's sitting in the back there, standing in the back there. Don is not known to a lot of people, but his organization is a very significant player in the community. He is the owner and the general manager of the Topeka Roadrunners. They've owned the team for 7 years. Their marketing group has been very aggressive about trying to create a brand in Topeka, and their goal is to put about 2,000 to 2,500 seats, or fill those seats every game. And so he's been very diligent about coming to these meetings and going to the county commission meetings, and really wants to become engaged in the community. So I just wanted to recognize him tonight. Thank you, Councilmember Hiller.
You're welcome, and I'll tag on that then. I've been to a number of Roadrunners games this season. They are fun. It's a wonderful family event if people haven't gone. And so they do a great job with the team as well as everybody else. A number of people, by the way, in town, if you're not familiar with the Roadrunners, actually host, they call it billeting, host those players here on the economy in Topeka, and it's really a great organization to plug into in that way as well. Thank you.
Councilman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo my sentiments in regards to the response downtown towards all the responders. Thank you so much. And also a big thank you to all the city employees for everything you did in 2014. I'm sure the citizens appreciate it. A couple other things really quickly. I just wanted to, although everyone should have received a notice in the affected area, I wanted to encourage people who live near 2600 Northwest Topeka Boulevard, which is the Southwest Publishing Company. There will be a public meeting on January 22nd at 6 p.m. at that location. And if you need any more information on that, let me know. And then lastly, there's a likelihood I may not be in attendance at the council meetings in the foreseeable future, at least maybe the next one. I'm going to be having a surgery on my neck this Friday, so I would appreciate your prayers and thoughts this Friday. And I also want to thank Councilwoman Ortiz, who's offered to kind of cover down for me a little bit while I might be off, so thank you.
Thank you, and we do wish you well. Councilwoman Ortiz. Councilwoman De Lisa.
Thank you, Mayor Wolgas. Want to say a huge thank you to NetReach and all of the individuals that got together with Fellowship Bible Church and other people that were part of a winterization project over at the High Crest area. 3 houses were winterized, and there was some work done in the kitchen just so that we could just keep on doing maintenance in these properties. We're extremely excited to see the changes and the wonderful things that are happening in that area. I echo my sentiments. Downtown is a very special area, and just to see what happened was heartbreaking. And finally, on a personal note, to my grandmother who's in a hospital that will see this, Mama te amo, I love you, I'm just thinking of you. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a couple other guests. On the back row, we have some scouts. Would you stand up, please?
Let them say hi.
And can you yell out what troop this is? 193. That's great. And congratulations, you attended one of the shortest meetings of the year, but you still receive credit for being here. So that's important. Thank you very much for being here. And we have no public comment tonight, no executive session, so there being no other business, the meeting is adjourned.
You should let them come say hi.
Then they don't want to. And if I go,